What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Draft Hub. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my top 10 defensive tackles for the 2026 NFL Draft. Now, I've already done linebackers, I've already done safeties, and I'm going to continue the trend with group from the defensive side, and that's going to be the defensive tackles. And honestly, this defensive tackle has grown on me in the last month or two, I would say, because initially it didn't really seem like a strong positional group for the 2026 NFL draft. And, as time has gone on and as you're able to evaluate these players, you realize, a lot of these guys are really, really good. This is probably the most run stopping defensive tackle class I've ever, I haven't been evaluating prospects too long since about the 2022 NFL draft, but this is by far the most run oriented defensive tackle class I have ever seen. I feel like there are so many good, one tech, zero tech guys that are going to line up over the A gap, at the NFL level. There's so many of them. And we're going to talk about 10 that made my list and then 5 honorable mentions. So that's usually how I do that. Before we get into this video, if you enjoy content like this or any type of NFL content, college football content, transfer portal content, anything like that, I upload every day at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And this is your hub, no pun intended, the Draft Hub. This is where you can get all your information and everything that you're looking for the NFL draft or anything football related. Now, I do want to mention before we get into this as well that I'm only talking about 15 players here. There, of course, are going to be guys that don't make my list that you might disagree with, but this isn't my final positional ranking. That usually comes out in a big video after the NFL Combine, because really that's the last step. Then you have pro days and stuff, but really the NFL Combine is the last big pre-draft, kind of event for the most part. So that'll be when my last big positional ranking video comes out. Now let's talk about some honorable mentions here. I have Gary Smith III from UCLA, Landon Robinson from Navy, Chris McClellan from Missouri, Dante Corleone from Cincinnati, the Godfather, my favorite name. That, and there's 2 names in this draft class from the defensive tackle position that are 2 of my favorite nicknames. And then Zane Durant from Penn State. So we'll talk briefly about my honorable mentions. I'm a big Gary Smith III fan from UCLA. Interesting frame, 6'2", 340 pounds, but moves like a gazelle. I mean, he's someone that's going to be a pure run stuffer at the NFL level. And, you could really break up this defensive tackle class into 2 different categories. You can get your 3 techs or your pass rush oriented guys. And then you could really just talk about your run stuffing 2 down type of players. And Gary Smith III is going to be a player that's going to be your traditional 2 down run stuffer at the NFL level. He's going to play on early downs. He's a beast. He missed all of last season. Before that, he was a phenomenal run defender. And then this past year, he had an 82.3 overall run blocking grade. He's run defense grade, excuse me. He's not going to be someone that really rushes the passer a lot, but he's someone that definitely collapses the pocket and definitely blows up running lanes as well. Like I said, really interesting build, 6'2", 340 pounds. He's really wide. I know that sounds like silly to say, but really, really stout run defender, good anchor ability, and really can get off the snap quite well. So he's going to be someone that I think is going to be like a late round gem that you're going to be able to play on early downs, and he's going to make a significant impact. He reminds me of like a Bobby Brown type of player at this point, and I think that's a pretty good pro comparison for him. Landon Robinson, the NFL Combine snub, probably the biggest Combine snub, if we're being honest with you. Navy's golden boy this year. Him and Eli Heidenreich are 2 players that I definitely think can get drafted this year. Robinson is an interesting case. He's probably one of the most gifted athletes at the defensive tackle position. I mean, just a true gym rat, over a 400-pound bench, over a 700-pound squat. He's a really interesting player. Interesting build as well, 5'11", 291 pounds, but man, is he explosive. So that's really, I really want to mention him because of the Pro Bowl snub itself and just the fact that he was able to, be so dominant as a run defender, as a pass rusher for Navy this past year. And you can't even say that Navy, don't play a difficult schedule for the most part. They played some real good teams this past year, and he was able to be impactful really in every single game. But Robinson is an interesting player that I think Navy have produced, quite a few decent players over the last few years for the most part. And I think Landon Robinson definitely has the chance to be the highest drafted one in quite a long time from Navy. But he's an absolute beast. He's someone that I do think is going to be more of a pass rush, or due to the overall size, 5'11", 291 pounds, he's going to be more of a pass rush oriented type of guy who's going to play in like odd front defenses as maybe like your five tech or maybe even a wide nine, depending on the alignment. But he's a super solid player, very interesting player as well. Chris McClellan from Missouri is the player that I want to talk about next. McClellan is a very, very interesting player, 6'4", 315 pounds, really balanced defensive tackle. He's been a very good player for Mizzou his entire career. This past year, he really kind of stepped it up, and you could argue that because of the edge rushing tandem that Mizzou had, especially with Zion Young, who could potentially be a first round pick this year, you could argue that that is a big proponent in how good of the season that he had, but very, very well balanced and over 77 grade for both pass rushing and run defending this past year. Really solid overall player that is kind of a lineman versatile. Due to that size, feel like he could play over the center. He could play in the B gap as a three tech. He could play, as a five tech as well, or in a 2-eye, whatever you really want him to do. He could slide all over the defensive alignment. Good get off, explosive first step. Really interesting player that just missed out on my top 10. And you have my number 2 overall for the preseason. Dante Corleone was my second highest graded defensive tackle, and definitely did take a step back this year for Cincinnati. For me personally, the Godfather. What a nickname. But yeah, Corleone is a player that I was a little disappointed in this past year. Really kind of showed himself to be more of a nose tackle archetype player, 6'1", 325 pounds. Again, a little bit squat for the position as well. But he also offers good explosiveness off the snap to be a not just a one-dimensional player from the nose tackle position, but I do definitely think that he's probably more in the day 3 range now than he was where I had him as like a top 50 or even a top 40 pick. Corleone's a player that I feel like as the years have gone on, I probably should have declared after last year. As the years have gone on, I feel like he's kind of hurt his draft stock more than he's helped it. But Corleone is, again, another one of those solid players that I think is probably going to play on early downs at the NFL level. And then you have Zane Durant from Penn State, who's really interesting, a super incredible athlete for the position. Hasn't really put it all together as a complete defensive tackle just yet. But Durant is a really, really solid pass rusher. And if anything, that's what he's shown over his career at Penn State. Is he's a very, very solid pass rusher. Hasn't really figured it out altogether as a run defender, kind of a really low run stop rate as a defensive tackle. I believe it was like 5.8% this past year. Not really what you want to see from someone that's going to try and play all 3 downs. But Durant is one of those athletic players that I think if he can get in a good enough defensive scheme with a good enough defensive coordinator, he's going to be a really, really solid player. Needs a lot of development. I think he's probably going to be closer to a day 3 prospect than anything, but you could bet your bottom dollar that a defensive coordinator is going to take a chance on a uber athletic defensive tackle like Durant and then just kind of figure it out as it goes on. Now let's get into my top 10. I have Brandon Cleveland from NC State as my 10th best defensive tackle in this class. Maybe a little bit of a shocker, especially for people who I don't want to sound arrogant. I don't want to sound mean saying this, but a lot of people in my comment sections for the safety video and for the linebacker video refer to PFN and refer to PFF for their rankings. Because I had someone like Jalen Husky who was in my top 10 safeties. I had him at number 6. And someone was like, I've never heard of Jalen Husky. What the hell are you talking about? There are bigger and better draft channels that don't even mention Jalen Husky. And it's just proof in the pudding that everyone's rankings are different. I think Brandon Cleveland is an absolute stud. He's a player that is primarily a run stopper for NC State, had a phenomenal grade for them this past year as a run defender. Big, long arms, strong get off, explosive first step. He offers a little bit more juice as a pass rusher than you would think too. 5 sacks a couple of years ago, 4 sacks this past year for them. So he's someone that definitely can collapse the pocket from the interior. Really strong run defender, like I said. 6'4", 350 pounds. Has a little bit more of that 3 tech build, in my opinion, than, an early down run stuffer where I would want probably this is more of an athletic, leaner build, I would say, at 6'4", 315 pounds. But he's a really strong player that I think is very alignment versatile at the NFL level. I think he's going to play more early down than anything, just because if you do look into the numbers itself, those are more of coverage sacks than anything. But he does eat up double teams very well as well. He's just a really strong player and has been very solid over the past 3 years for NC State as well. And I don't think he's getting nearly enough love in this draft class as a more complete player. It's very difficult to rank these defensive tackles this year, I will tell you. It's just because you have, like I mentioned already before in this video, you have guys who are run oriented and then guys who are pass rush oriented. And it's kind of tough to differentiate between the two, to be honest with you. I'm not I shouldn't say difficult to differentiate between the two, but just to kind of, it depends on what you value more. Do you value run defending more? Do you value pass rush from the interior more? I'm a little bit of a more balanced type of guy. So Cleveland is a player that I think is going to be a very strong overall player, probably going to be in that day 3 range, probably 4th, 5th round, something like that. But someone that I feel like in a couple years' time, we're going to say, wow, that guy is real, like a Puna Ford or a T or a Tart, where it's like, wow, that guy got drafted pretty late. And well, Puna Ford didn't get drafted at all out of Texas. And you're like, wow, that guy's carved out a really nice career for himself as a late round or an undrafted free agent type of player. And Cleveland could be that. At 9, I have Skyler from Texas, kind of the contrast that I was talking about, where you have a Brandon Cleveland who's more run oriented and a 6'4", 315. And then you have Skyler Gill-Howard, who's 6'1", 290 pounds, and he's a very, very solid pass rusher as well. So this past year, he didn't play. I think he played in like 6 or 7 games for the Red Raiders, and definitely benefited from having probably the best defensive line around him in college football. Romello Height, David Bailey, Lee Hunter, we'll get to him a little bit later on as well. He definitely benefited from that. And if you dive into the metrics, he did have his best games against the worst competition. But if you look more than that over the past couple of years, he's been a very, very solid overall player, really strong for his size as well. 6'1", 290 pounds. You're thinking more of a odd front 5 tech for the most part. You're thinking of someone that's going to probably play more, over the shoulder of the guard or in front of the tackle for the most part, because I don't really think this is a player that's going to be able to reduce inside on run defending downs. But he's also not a bad run defender in his own right as well. Really strong overall player, really intriguing player to see where he fits. Does he drop a couple more pounds? Does he drop down to, a 280 or even like a 278 or 275? And does he play rush linebacker? He does have the get off and the overall speed. He's a really good athlete for the defensive tackle position. But it also depends. I'm sure dropping weight wouldn't hurt your athleticism, but changing your overall body composition sometimes does, compromise some strengths that you have. He's a really strong player for his frame. So maybe that does come, maybe losing that 12 to 15 pounds probably compromises his overall strength. I think he's a strong player that's going to be able to play all over the defensive line for the most part. Maybe in obvious pass rushing downs, maybe like 3rd and longs, he'll be able to reduce inside and give a little bit more juice, a little bit more speed as a rush D tackle, on like a 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 15, something like that. But he's a player that I think he's going to be more of a pass rush specialist from wider alignments on the defensive line. But he's a really, really solid player. I think he had 5 sacks this past year. He had 7 sacks last year as well. A player that definitely can get to the quarterback. A really strong player. I like Skyler Gill-Howard a lot. And he's kind of like that perfect contrast that I was talking about, earlier in the video. At 8, I have Domonique Orange. And this is who I was talking about before as my second favorite nickname, Big Citrus. Really awesome player. 6'3", 325 pounds. Again, going to be more of that, pocket collapsing, disruptive presence in the run game. Really, really strong player. And I mean strong, like physically strong. There's only one center that I saw that actually held his own against Domonique Orange as against the run for the majority of the game. And that was against Sam Heck, who is the center for Kansas State, who's probably going to go late day 2 in this draft. Just a dominating presence, really kind of just can throw off centers, guards to the side and really just be a dominant force as a run defender. Had a little bit of a down year for Iowa State this past year. I felt like his 2024 season was much stronger, but he's got all the intangibles you're looking for as just a beefy run-stopping defensive tackle at the next level. 6'3", 325 pounds, has the perfect frame, in my opinion. Really long arms, probably a little bit over or at 35-inch arms. Just kind of controls the snap at the point of contact with the overall leverage game of just having those super long arms as well, and just a physically ferocious run defender can, like I said, just kind of really dominant at the point of contact as well. So this is a player that I think is going to be more of an early down player. Big Citrus is going to be an early down player. That's why it's really tough to differentiate, like, who do you want high and low? Because I think Domonique Orange, if we're talking about purely run defending defensive tackles, he's probably like the second or the third best defensive tackle in the class, but doesn't really offer too much as a pass rusher as well. But he's someone that's really you're going to put in the middle of your defensive line, and he's going to eat up blocks. He's going to eat up double teams, and he's going to plug up those rushing lanes as well. And that's really the strongest part of his game. And he dominated against double teams as well. Just an excellent overall player who has kind of gotten, I feel like, kind of buried in this defensive tackle class as guys have kind of emerged. Domonique Orange is the standard, is the guy who might not move the needle for you, but he's so good at baseline. So he's really like a high floor player for me. High floor, high-ish ceiling, depending on what you're looking for from him. But he's someone that you're going to plug into the middle of your defensive line. He's just going to be overall a really strong, really safe player. At 7, I have Darrell Jackson Jr. from Florida State. Man, oh man, is this guy the wet dream of measurables? 6'5", 337 pounds, near 36-inch arms. Unbelievable at the point of contact. He's a player that really showed out to me this year as more of a complete defensive tackle, because this past year he only had 2 sacks, but he really focused more on as a run defender, and he was excellent as a run defender this past year. Over an 83 overall run defense grade for Darrell Jackson Jr. Kind of got lost in the shuffle of a weird year for Florida State, but just a super like toolsy player for me. Just kind of shows the overall explosiveness, the strength. He's going to be someone that's probably going to put up close to 40 reps on the bench press at the NFL Combine. He's going to be someone that's definitely going to improve his draft stock tenfold, because over his overall athleticism, his explosiveness, and his measurables are just going to carry him higher and higher. I mean, look at him. You're looking from this photo itself. This guy does not look like he's near 340 pounds. I know he's 6'5", so obviously he's taller, so he looks thinner. But my God, just really, you want to talk about dominant? What can you do against someone that's 6'5", 340 pounds, and obviously dominates the leverage game due to his overall size? He's someone that could very easily dominate double teams as well. And in one-on-ones, it's kind of not even fair. He really was a great player this past year. Only 2 sacks this past year, but he does have a 5-sack season, and I believe a 7-sack season under his belt for Florida State as well. Going to be a touch of an older prospect too, 23 years old at the time of his rookie season, but I really don't think that matters a lot. There's a lot of older prospects in this draft class as well, but Darrell Jackson Jr. is a player that I just think, based off of the tools themselves and based off of the overall measurables, you're finding a player that, especially in odd fronts, is going to be just dominant. He has the pass rush ability to play a little bit wider. He has the leverage, the strength, and the overall run support to play, over the center, 2-eye, 1-tech, 0-tech, whatever it may be. Alignment versatile is Darrell Jackson Jr., and he's someone that is going to be a little bit more run-oriented, but man, he definitely could bring the juice as a pass rusher, and he's probably the toolsiest defensive tackle in this draft class. Then at 6, I have Gracen Halton, and I'll be honest with you, I don't sing my own praises. I don't toot my own horn very often. I'm going to say that I was on the Gracen Halton train for a very long time at this point. And if it wasn't for the 5 guys that are ahead of him, that I just think are overall like borderline first-round talents, all of them, I think Halton would definitely be closer to my top 3. But Halton is a player that coming into this season was always able to show his pass rushing chops. Now, you forget that at the beginning of last year, he was 284 pounds. Now this year weighs in at 293 at 6'3". He was a more pass rush oriented defensive tackle. He was someone that was always able to get to the quarterback. No questions asked, no problems there. Wasn't a good run defender at all. He was really on the field for the Oklahoma Sooners more as just purely a pass rusher. And this past year, he really blossomed as a run defender, especially in the second half of the season. He really honed in on his craft and was able to have an excellent second half of the season and boost his run stop rate up to 11%. And for a defensive tackle that's under 300 pounds, that's very seldom that you'll find that type of success for a player that's under, mind you, even under 315 pounds. It's very difficult to find a player like that under 300 pounds. And he's just an unbelievable player. The pass rush win rate is up there in the 14.5% as well. He's kind of in like your top 85 percentile, really across the board. Really strong, toolsy player as well. Great strength, great play strength, long arms, 34-inch arms as well. He's a player that I definitely think is worked his, especially with a strong Senior Bowl performance. He worked his way into a top 75 pick for sure. And he's someone that I think is really going to take advantage of just the momentum. I think that he's also a really athletic player. He's someone that's probably going to put up a very, very strong combine performance as well. And Halton is a player that really I kind of honed in on at the beginning of the season. And I was like, man, if this guy could develop the run defending aspect of his game, he's going to be a really, really fun player to watch. And that's exactly what he did. Second half of the season, if you look at the grades, really just an over 75 in every single game past, I think like game 6 or 7 this past year for the Oklahoma Sooners was kind of one of the big reasons why the Sooners had a top 10 defense in the FBS. And I think he's also one of the reasons why R. Mason Thomas had as good of a season as he did as well, just from a pure pass rushing standpoint. But Halton is kind of an unsung hero in the Sooners defense. And I think that he's going to be rewarded with a top 75 pick. He's someone that I think is going to be able to play all 3 downs at the NFL level. Whereas at the beginning of the season, I thought he was more of a pass rush oriented defensive tackle and be on the field for that. He's going to be someone that definitely works his way on the field for 3 downs. At 5, I have Kayden McDonald, and it makes me sad that I have Kayden McDonald at 5 because he's so dominant as a run defender. But he's a true 2-down player at the NFL level, in my opinion. Really offers next to nothing as a pass rusher. A 92 overall run defense grade for Kayden McDonald this past year for Ohio State. He was probably the most or one of the most dominant run defenders from the interior position in the entire FBS. My problem with him is his pass rushing ability. In 144 pass rushing snaps, generated a 2.4 pass rush win rate. Not good enough. Not good in a 2-down player at the NFL level. And he hits at 5 because good defender, it's tough to pass up the opportunity of him being a borderline first-round talent because there are teams that are going to be looking for that run defending defensive tackle relatively early on in the draft. You're thinking right away, I'm thinking Houston Texans. I'm circling the San Francisco 49ers could use more help on their defensive line. You know what I mean? Maybe even the Denver Broncos could look for a John Franklin Myers replacement. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he is a first-round pick, but I just think McDonald really loses so much steam as an overall pass rusher that it's difficult for me to project him higher than the 5th best defensive tackle in this class just because he offers so little as a pass rusher. But as a run defender, purely dominant. I mean, the guy he's 330 pounds of muscle. I mean, look at this photo of him. He doesn't look 330 pounds. Got a little bit more of a compact build at 6'3", 330 pounds, but he has those long arms as well, over 34-inch arms, really controls the leverage game, really gets his hands, like he drives through his hands and through his lower body and kind of pushes those offensive linemen right back into the running lanes as well. So he clogs up those running lanes almost instantaneously. I mean, if you watch, I think he didn't play a whole ton of snaps. I think he played a total of like just under 400 snaps or just over. I can't remember, but it was something like 258 run defense snaps. And really, he kind of dominated the point of attack in almost every single one of them. Just a really excellent player, excellent run defender. And really, it's a lost art at the NFL level. I feel like you're looking for more of those. Aaron Donald kind of broke the mold as like, oh, well, defensive tackles. If you were a pass rush defensive tackle, you were like one of the GOATs, because there was so few and far between. And then Aaron Donald came along and was just so dominant in everything that you were like, oh, okay, well, maybe every defensive tackle could be like this. And that's what you're looking for. But getting McDonald for me is more of a traditional run stopping defensive tackle. And I think he's going to be a great player on early downs for whoever selects him inside the top 50. At 4, I have Christian Miller. Now, Miller is an interesting case because in his collegiate career, Christian Miller only has 2.5 sacks in his 3 seasons with Georgia. But if you look at the overall numbers, first off, one of the most consistent players from the defensive tackle position in this draft class. Over 75 grade his first year, over 82 last year, over 82 this year. Just kind of an unsung hero along that defensive line. Excellent run defender as well, but he's also someone that brings the heat as a pass rusher as well. He's just not able to finish his his reps as a pass rusher. So that's kind of my gripe with Christian Miller, where it separates him from the top three, is he's not able to. It kind of seems like once he gets into the backfield, there's a little bit of a lack of an overall pass rush plan. It's almost like he's kind of surprised that he was even in that position. So that's where he kind of loses a little bit points for me, where it's like he does get the pressure. I think he had like an 8 or an 8.5% pass rush win rate, and that's pretty dang good for a run defense oriented defensive tackle. Like I said, just makes his bread and butter as a run defender, but offers so much more as a pass rusher. And with his overall athleticism and his explosive first step at 6'4", 315 pounds, there's so much more untapped potential that I think that we haven't seen yet. And I'm a Jet fan. And at pick number 33 or 44, if he's there, I would absolutely love to get someone like Christian Miller on that defensive line. Just really athletic, is able to get to the quarterback, is really able to split those double teams as well. Excellent tackler for the defensive tackle position as well, and someone that can play all three downs. So I think Miller just needs to work on honing his craft as an overall finisher when it comes to, getting to the quarterback itself, but he definitely can get to the quarterback, and the athletic ability makes me think that any defensive coordinator is going to want to take a chance on him here. At 3, I have Caleb Banks. Now, Banks comes with a couple concerns. Injury concern this past year kind of limited him to like 4 or 5 games. Also, he's going to be 24 years old at the time of his rookie season. But Banks is like an outlier in terms of athleticism and overall strength for the defensive tackle position. 6'6", 325 pounds, near 35-inch arms as well. Just an overall, I talked about Darrell Jackson Jr. being the most toolsy player. Caleb Banks is a very, very close second for me. Just the production isn't there. So what really makes it hard for Banks, projecting wise, is that Banks is kind of all projection because we haven't really seen it at the collegiate level. We see the tools, we see the talents, and there are glimpses of some overall unbelievable reps at the defensive tackle position where he just absolutely thoroughly dominates the snap from the get off. And you think to yourself, my God, this is the most ferocious defensive tackle in the FBS. And then there are some snaps where he kind of gets lost. So he needs to put it all together. But my thing is the super strong showing at the Senior Bowl was really telling to me, where he was far and away one of, if not the best defensive tackle prospects, at the Senior Bowl. He's just like, when he's healthy and when he's able to stay on the field, the guy is almost second to none in terms of being disruptive. I mean, it's almost not fair at 6'6", 325 pounds for someone to move as fast and as sudden as Caleb Banks does. So I don't really have too much for you in terms of production. He did have a really strong show this past year. He didn't play in many games, but he had a very strong showing against LSU. So do with that information what you will. But Banks is more of a projection, but man, if he's able to kind of, come true on his projection and off his overall abilities, I think you're looking at probably the best defensive tackle overall in this draft class. But for now, since he's more of a project, since it's more of, oh, I can't wait to see this, I can't wait to see that, it's not really on film, I can't put him higher than 3, but I'm putting him at 3 with the hope that he is going to be the best defensive tackle overall in this draft class. At 2, I have Lee Hunter. You want to talk about a riser through the ranks, through the defensive tackle position in the season for this draft class? I had a NFL Draft Gems short about Lee Hunter about 4 or 5 months ago that I said he would be a steal in the 5th round. Now, if Lee Hunter gets out of the 1st round, I think he would be a steal at really any spot inside the top 50. Just 6'4", 330 pounds. Again, I'm just reiterating kind of the same thing I said about Caleb Banks, but Lee Hunter has the overall production to go with it. So explosive off the snap, dominant at the point of contact, someone that you absolutely know is on the field. So it's kind of like defensive tackle is a tough position to watch when you're watching a football game on TV because you kind of get lost in that mess of giant bodies. Lee Hunter is someone that you're able to pick out no problem. He's a huge body at 6'4", 330 pounds, and he's incredibly gifted. Great athlete, explosive, like the most explosive first step in this draft class as well. He is just kind of your do-it-all defensive tackle. He could rush the passer at an incredible clip. He's a fantastic run defender, great tackler, wraps up very, very well. Really smart football player as well. Always has a plan when he gets in the backfield, expects to get in the backfield on every single snap. And he was incredibly productive at UCF in 2023 and 2024, and he took his talents to Texas Tech, and he was part of the best defensive line in college football this past year. He's an unbelievable player. I really wouldn't. I have him in my last first round mock that I did earlier this week. I had him going at pick number 14 to the Baltimore Ravens, and I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility. You know, you have these teams that are looking for these do-it-all explosive defensive tackles. Lee Hunter's kind of your guy that has it all. He has the projection, he has the production, and he has the overall strength and explosiveness to get it done. And really, for me, in terms of someone that has shown what they can do and is an ascending player, I think Lee Hunter is the best defensive tackle in the draft class. I just have one guy ahead of him, and that should be no surprise. It's Peter Woods. Now, I have Peter Woods at number one because of what he was able to show the last 2 years. 2025 was not only a down season for Clemson, or for Peter Woods, it was a down season for Clemson, rather. Just kind of every top draft pick prospect kind of had a down year, except for Avion Terrell and TJ Parker. Those guys kind of had status quo. They were fantastic this past season. But Woods is a player that I think I have an answer, or at least an excuse, for why he wasn't nearly as explosive and a little bit more tired on some of his snaps. It's because he gained 15 pounds this past season. You're looking at someone that was playing borderline last year, the last couple of years, at that 300, 302, 305 pound range. And that extra 10 to 15 pounds, I think, really slowed him down. I think if you're looking at Peter Woods as someone that is going to be, if he could lose that weight again and play more at that 300-pound mark, I think he's going to be just as explosive, just as relentless as we've seen him in years prior. Woods is, people love to hate on Peter Woods in the comment section below, but the proof is in the film. This guy is just, and I can't even like kind of put it into words just how awesome this guy is when he is at his peak athleticism. I mean, just an incredibly lean 300 to 315 pounds, explosive, fast, scary fast off the line of scrimmage. I mean, we're talking about defensive end type of, and he did play a little bit of defensive end for Clemson in his earlier years as well. That's how explosive and athletic we're talking about a defensive tackler, someone that has played significant snaps at the defensive end position as well. Scary fast, great overall bad rushing move. Someone that is disruptive, perfect, is the perfect for it. So this year, while Peter Woods was in the midst of his worst year for Clemson, I think he's the best defensive tackle prospect I've watched since Jalen Carter. And we all see how good Jalen Carter has been at the NFL level. I think Peter Woods could be that exact player. I think he's that smart. I think he's that talented, the pure talent aspect. You can't touch Peter Woods in this draft class from the defensive tackle. Whereas maybe guys like Lee Hunter, Christian Miller, those guys are harder workers, I would say, where, you know, Peter Woods is just more naturally gifted. And I think that if he can get back down to that traditional play weight that he was at the last couple of years, you're really going to see some explosive activity at the NFL level. Pass rushing, phenomenal player. Run defending, almost even better. He's someone that is just, before this year, he was graded out in the mid 80s for the last 2 years as a run defender and as a pass rusher as well. Great pass rush. Even this past year, in a down year, he had a 10.9% pass rush win rate. And that's, you know, pretty dang solid considering he had a down year. As a run defender, he had even worse of a year, I'd say. And I really, truly think it is because of that 10 to 15 pounds that he added in the offseason. I do think that he was tired on a lot of snaps. It looked like he was kind of not playing or not really trying on a couple of snaps. And I do think it's because of that extra weight that he put on. Because if you look at years prior and you look at when he was at that 300 or 305 pound range, he was definitely, the motor was relentless for the most part. And this year we just didn't see that. But trust me when I tell you that Peter Woods, if he does drop that weight, first off, he's going to test very, very well. Athletically, he's incredibly gifted. I want to see what a 3-cone drill from Peter Woods looks like, because just the explosive get off, the overall just footwork, everything about him, I feel like, is the closest thing we have to projection and production in this draft class. Whereas Lee Hunter is more of that production, Caleb Banks is more of that projection. You have Peter Woods, who I think is that production and that projection, that hopefully, if he makes good, he could be a blue chip or generational type of defensive tackle in this draft class. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are my top 10 defensive tackles in the 2026 NFL draft class. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.